That was the strange part. Silence usually stands out immediately, but this one crept in slowly, like it had been there the whole time, and I was only just catching up to it. The hum of the computer fan faded into the background. The distant sound of traffic outside my apartment vanished. Even the ticking wall clock seemed to hesitate, as if unsure whether it should keep going. That was when my phone vibrated. No sound. Just a single, sharp vibration against the desk. There was no notification on the screen. No missed call. No message preview. Just the lock screen staring back at me, reflecting my own face, pale and tense. Then it vibrated again. This time, the screen lit up with a message from an unknown number. "I know you're awake." I stared at the words longer than I should have. I hadn't told anyone I was up late. My lights were off. I stared at the words longer than I should have. I hadn't told anyone I was up late. My lights were off. The blinds were closed. I typed a response, deleted it, typed again, and finally sent a single question. "Who is this?" The reply came instantly. "You shouldn't have read the stories." My chest tightened. I hadn't shared them with anyone yet. They were just drafts. Private files. Unpublished. The phone vibrated once more. "Now it knows you." That night, I didn't sleep. And that's how the stories started finding me. The first one arrived as an audio file attached to an email with no subject. The waveform was flat for several seconds before a voice finally emerged, quiet and shaking, like the speaker was afraid of being overheard. He said he worked night security at a warehouse on the edge of town. A place so empty it felt abandoned. Even during the day. Rows of shelves, long corridors, fluorescent lights that buzzed softly and never quite stopped flickering. He said the cameras were his only company. Most nights, he watched nothing happen. Empty hallways. Closed doors. Shadows that didn't move. Until one night, at exactly 2:17 a.m., every monitor blinked at the same time. When the image returned, one hallway was no longer empty. At the far end, standing perfectly still, was a man. He didn't walk into frame. He didn't step out from behind anything. He was just there, facing the camera, as if he had always been there and the camera had only just noticed him. The guard zoomed in. The man's face filled the screen. His eyes were open too wide, glassy and unblinking. His smile looked stretched, forced into place like it didn't belong there. The guard said the worst part wasn't the smile. It was the way the man leaned forward slightly, like he was trying to look directly through the camera, directly at whoever was watching. The audio cut out for a moment, replaced by heavy breathing. The guard said he left the security office and walked toward the hallway, telling himself it was just a trespasser, just someone who had slipped inside. Halfway there, the lights overhead shut off. Not all at once. One by one. Each click plunging another section of the corridor into darkness. By the time he reached the spot where the man had been standing, the hallway was empty. But the floor was warm. The next story came handwritten, scanned, and emailed as a PDF. The handwriting was neat but shaky, like the writer had kept stopping to listen. She said the house she grew up in was old, the kind of old that seemed to breathe when no one was paying attention. Doors that creaked even when no one touched them. Floors that groaned under invisible weight. She said the footsteps started when she was 16. Every night, just after the house settled and her parents' bedroom light went off, she would hear them. Slow, deliberate steps pacing back and forth in the hallway outside her door. They never approached, never retreated, just paced. She would lie in bed, counting the steps, noticing how they stopped exactly where her door was, every single time. One night, she gathered enough courage to open it. The hallway was empty, but the air felt thick, heavy, like someone had just exhaled right in front of her face. The carpet outside her door was warm. After that, the house began responding to her. Photos turned face down when she left the room. Chairs shifted just slightly, never enough for anyone else to notice. Doors opened wider when she tried to close them. And the whispers began. Sometimes they said her name. Sometimes they mimicked her parents' voices. Once, late at night, she heard herself whispering from the other side of the door, begging to be let in. She never opened it again. Years later, the new owners called her family asking about a girl who kept appearing in their hallway mirrors. A girl who stood just out of sight, watching. The third story was written in short, broken sentences, like the writer didn't want to spend too long remembering. He said, he went hiking alone. He said the woods went quiet. He said he heard footsteps that matched his own. No matter how fast he walked, they stayed behind him. No matter how suddenly he stopped, they stopped too. When he turned around, nothing was there. But when he reached his car, the footsteps followed him onto the gravel. That night, they followed him into his house. He said he didn't see anything. He just heard the pacing outside his bedroom door. Slow. Patient. Like it was waiting for him to fall asleep. The fourth story came from a babysitter who said she still jumps whenever a phone rings. She had put the children to bed and was sitting in the dark living room when the house phone rang. The caller ID showed the house's own number. When she answered, there was only breathing. Deep. Calm. Too close. She hung up. The phone rang again. This time, a whisper slid through the receiver. "Why are you in my house?" She ran upstairs to grab the children and noticed the master bedroom door standing open. The lights were off, but the bed was disturbed, the blankets pulled back like someone had just risen from it. The police never found anyone, but the babysitter said the breathing followed her home. The final story arrived at 3:03 a.m. It was a single sentence at first. "It sits on my bed every night." More messages followed. He said he could feel the mattress dip. The weight. The pressure near his legs. He said he could move. He could speak. He could turn on the light. Nothing was ever there. Until one night he reached out. He said whatever he touched was cold. Unmoving. Gripping back. The last message he sent read, "It's standing now." He never replied again. And now, every night, at exactly 3:03 a.m., my phone vibrates. And now, every night, at exactly 3:03 a.m., my phone vibrates. No notification. No message. Just a reminder that something knows I'm awake, and that it's waiting. After the vibrations started, I tried everything to explain them away. I turned my phone off at night. I left it in another room. I even powered it down completely and watched the screen go black before setting it on the kitchen counter. But at 3:03 a.m., without fail, I would wake up anyway. Not to a sound. Not to a movement. Just the sudden certainty that I was no longer alone. The first time it happened, I lay still, holding my breath, listening for something, anything that could explain the feeling pressing down on my chest. The apartment was silent. Too silent. The kind of silence that feels stretched thin, like it might tear if you move too much. Then the phone vibrated. From the kitchen. A single vibration. Sharp. Deliberate. When I checked it in the morning, it was still powered off. That was when I stopped sleeping in my bedroom. I moved to the couch, pulling it away from the wall, making sure I could see the hallway, the bedroom door, the bathroom door, all of it. I slept with the lights on. The TV running. Noise meant safety, or at least that's what I told myself. But the stories didn't stop. They started arriving faster. One message came from a man who said he had worked as a janitor in a hospital that was scheduled for demolition. The building was mostly empty, with only a few active floors. His job was to clean the unused wings overnight. He said the elevators no longer stopped on the abandoned floors. But sometimes, late at night, they opened anyway. He would be pushing his cart down a corridor when he heard the elevator bell ring behind him. The doors would slide open to reveal darkness inside. No lights. No buttons illuminated. Just the faint smell of something old. He never stepped inside. One night, he watched the doors close on their own. The next morning, security footage showed him standing in front of the elevator for over an hour, completely still, as if he was listening to something no one else could hear. He quit the next day. He said the elevator still stops at his apartment building sometimes. Another story came from a woman who lived alone in a ground-floor apartment. She said she started noticing fingerprints on the outside of her bedroom window. Not smeared. Not messy. Perfectly placed. 5 fingers, pressed flat against the glass. She cleaned them off the first time, convincing herself it was kids, or condensation, or her imagination. The next morning, they were back. This time, they were on the inside. She moved out within a week, but before she left, she took a photo. In the reflection of the glass behind her, something was smiling. I began to dread opening messages, but I couldn't stop. Each story felt connected, like fragments of something larger, something moving slowly toward me. There were patterns I couldn't ignore. Times repeating. Doors opening. Footsteps stopping just outside bedrooms. Voices mimicking loved ones. And always the waiting. One night, I made the mistake of replying. A message came in from an unknown number. No context. Just 6 words. It's closer than it was before. My hands shook as I typed. What is? The response took longer than usual. When it finally arrived, my blood ran cold. You stopped sleeping where it sits. I didn't sleep at all that night. Around 3 a.m., I heard something new. A sound I hadn't heard before. The soft drag of fabric across carpet. It came from the bedroom. Slow. Careful. Like something learning the layout of the apartment. I sat frozen on the couch, staring down the dark hallway, every muscle locked, every instinct screaming at me not to move. The sound stopped just short of the living room. There was a pause. Then the couch dipped slightly beside my legs. Not enough to see. Just enough to feel. I didn't look. I couldn't. The pressure stayed for a long time before lifting slowly, as if whatever it was had stood up. When morning came, I found the bedroom door wide open. The mattress was disturbed, indented, as if someone had been sitting there for hours. The next message arrived before I could process what I'd seen. You feel it now, don't you? I stopped collecting stories after that. Or at least I tried. But they didn't need my permission anymore. They started showing up in my dreams. I dreamed of long hallways that bent at impossible angles. Of doors that led back to the same room no matter how many times I opened them. Of mirrors that reflected empty spaces where I should have been standing. In every dream, there was something just behind me. Close enough to feel. Never close enough to see. I woke up with bruises on my arms. Fingers. Not gripping. Guiding. The final message I received didn't come through my phone or my email. It was written on the fogged mirror in my bathroom. 3 words. Don't look back. The fog cleared on its own a moment later. The words were gone, but I could still feel them, burned into my thoughts, echoing every time I turned a corner too slowly, every time I felt air shift behind me when I was sure no one was there. I don't sleep much now. When I do, I keep the lights on. Doors open. Nothing between me and the empty space where it likes to stand. Because I've learned something from all the stories. It doesn't like being ignored. It likes being noticed. And now that you've read this, now that you're aware, it knows you're awake too. So when the silence stretches a little too thin tonight, when your room feels just a little heavier, don't turn around. It's already close enough.